quite a large number of people who are enrolled today to be part of this event, and also the speaker list, what he has brought. This only brings to me a dilemma that you have to speak about 30 minutes in an audience, which is at times better than me in terms of the grasp of intellectual property rights. And that consciousness makes me a little nervous. And it is the same, I would narrate that about the speaker who went to a small town in Japan to address the university people there. But he was cautioned that English is not the language, but don't worry, we'll put a translator for you. So he quite happily went to speak in that particular event. And he said, the translator said, sir, 30 minutes you're going to speak. Every 10 minutes I will translate. He said that's a fair proposition because long translation will be lost. So 10 minutes he spoke, but the translator spoke only about 10 seconds. And then he said, sir, continue. He was very surprised, but he did continue. All the 3 times it was only 10 to 15 seconds they were translating. So after that program, he was completely perplexed. Either Japanese language should be such an efficient language, which can be done in 30 seconds, what a English person is speaking in 30 minutes, or what is the problem? So he asked the translator. Translator said, the program is over, sir. Why are you worried about it? He said, no, I will be worried about this always. Then the translator said, sir, nothing, sir. After 10 minutes, I told the audience that this gentleman has nothing new to tell. And so the audience really enjoyed it. After 10 minutes, again, I told that this gentleman has nothing new to tell. And the last 10 minutes also, I concluded by telling, you have nothing new to tell. And so that is the kind of dilemma I am in with a good number of audience who are exposed to IPR, that what am I going to tell new? But nevertheless, only saving grace, we don't need a Japanese translator. I speak in English, all of you know in English. Only that part is saved. So in such sense, I would like to make it very light with a lot of technical sessions happening. And I would like, to an extent, narrate it in a personal sense, which may have a narrative in a country sense. You may wonder, how is it possible? Let me put it like this. When I started teaching, I started my teaching career in National Law School of India, Bangalore, as a very junior entrant. Everybody loves to teach some thick subject. So what are the subject in this syllabus? And try to approach the director and say, either you allow me to teach or I'll go with someone and teach. Then I looked. Obviously, there was one paper called IPR in 4th year, but it looks like no takers were there. And all the people wanted only the top of the, what I call as subjects called constitutional law or administrative law, which is more attractive. So I also try to tag along with 2 teachers and say that please take me also with you. I will take some module, etc. So what I want to tell was, this I'm talking in 1990, not very far. In 1990, the top law school for almost 2-3 decades now, National Law School of India, Bangalore, has subjects matter, but there was IPR, no doubt, which was not there in many places, but it was considered as also ran. And so we are all trying to somewhere align with the very thick jurisprudence class or constitutional law class. After a long time, and then I went outside NLS and came back again to join. This time, then director, Dr. N.L. Mitra, who was the director, called me one day to his room and he says that you are boasting a lot that you know about laptops and you are thinking you're tech savvy and all. I said, I'm not boasting, sir, but I know a little bit. Then he said, I'm assigning you a project which is to work out what I call as intellectual property rights website. It was given by an agency in government and they're given it to NLS. I want you to sit, work on this, create the content and put it. And immediately I said, sir, I know laptop, internet, all the but website, but sir, this is, you give it to somebody, because I was not interested. I thought it's one of the dry and boring area which I'm being pushed. But I had no choice because I was just an assistant professor on probation. And all of you know that, hierarchy of, what you are in academics also, you don't have much of a voice. So he said, no, Vivekanandan, they're coming next month to inspect. I want that to be ready. So, and he said, you don't teach anything this semester. You sit totally on this, he said. So it was like sitting in my room, first time taking the books, reading all that, because I never did that earlier. And then reading all the things. And of course, it has to come as a website. So you have to read case laws, you have to do many things. I thought it's a big punishment posting given to me. Like they even say, police officer on thick action suddenly will made as chairman of police housing board. That kind of feeling I had. That what to do, but you are an academics, and he says you are the best to do all that. So I was doing that, and I was assisted by a couple of people, and then finally it came to a shape. And these people who came to inspect said, okay, it looks good. Then we are waiting for a launch date. We are doing a little bit of beta testing, pilot study. We were giving it to some important people to check how this website is and how it is carrying. I'm talking, this is the kind of thing. This time, what the period I'm talking is not 1990. I'm talking the period is even much, much later. I'm talking, this is about 98, 99, right? History. And 98, 99, finally the beta testing and all done. And still the launch has not been done. We are thinking some good name to come and launch all that function. By the time one day I got a call from USIS, that is from Chennai. Somebody called me and said, we're calling from the public policy area, public affairs. And then so-and-so is visiting Bangalore and he wants to meet you, discuss a little bit about the website you people are creating. And we talked to somebody, they said, you are involved in content creation. So I happily went. It was a good lunch in a good hotel. So after the lunch, the public affairs person, I don't recollect his name, he's an American. He told me, Professor, would you like to go to United States as our, sponsored guest to get exposed to intellectual property rights? Frankly speaking, I was not that much interested in IPR, but I thought it's a free trip he's offering to travel for a month to US to meet many things, not to lose the opportunity, and is happening in our holidays. So I really happily agreed to that. So that took me 1 month, somewhere in 2000, to different places. And it was slowly, I'm suddenly getting what I call, it's not my plan, but some other plan, I'm being pulled into something else. So I started visiting, and I also had a shock. In one of the very introductory thing, a particular professor came, and we were about 17 of us, all of this from what I call, third world, or developing countries, you call it. All of this, not anybody from developed world. We were all sitting, and he started very aggressively telling that, in a way, he said, you people are in the third world, you steal intellectual property. It was very jarring for me. We are all a guest here, and then here is a talk, and he says we are stealing. Then it landed into an argument. I said, probably we are stealing back something which we gave. Was my argument. And because I didn't expect that type of language when you talk about in knowledge sense, then it was intriguing me. Then throughout we were given a discourse. Somewhere I felt this discourse is a model from somewhere else. And when we are doing something here, this seems to be bit told us this is what is IPR. So it was very, very intriguing. In fact, I was thinking throughout the tour, one thing struck me was we don't have a capacity here first to understand what's happening in the world level, and also to, what you call as counter it and then develop. This was very disturbing for me. So in fact, I remember one of the top professors in US now, Srividya Raghavan, who was my student earlier. At the time, she was pursuing Ph.D. in Washington School. And then I used to, as a guest in her house, I told her, Sri, I want to go back and start something on this, because I really don't understand what they are talking, in what discourse they are doing, and we are into somewhere else, and it's already, they are telling we have signed an agreement and things are going to change. Another few years, our legislators have to change, all that stuff. And she said, sir, it's a really good idea. Even law school students, we had a very limited exposure. And then when we came, and definitely we need to know the game in order to have a counter narrative. That was the kind of thing which I was discussing. I did come back to National Law School. I asked at that time another professor, had changed over. Professor Mohan Gopal was there. I gave him a presentation that why not I start a diploma in patents law because we need to bring in science, technology, people inside, and then also lawyers inside, and then that's how a public policy could come. But Professor Gopal was not interested. He said, again, leave that to other colleges. We are on human rights and environmental law, bigger narratives. So I was very upset. In fact, I prepared a complete plan, like a corporate plan, about the courses, about what are the modules, about everything. I'm very upset, but at the same time, what to do? It's all a leadership in a university thinks what is priority. And then suddenly, I know Professor Ranbir Singh, whom I often meet from Hyderabad when he comes here, or I go there. And in fact, I did one small IPR program in Hyderabad. He helped me. So when I spoke to him, then he said, Vivek, if you want to follow something and you are having some plan, please forget about National Law School. Come and join me. That was a big, different proposition. My wife was working in Bangalore. I am going to be in Hyderabad. But he said, don't worry about it. Things will all fall in place. So some risk I took. In fact, I resigned from NLS, which is considered as the brand at that time, to NALSAR, which was hardly known because we were just 2 years old and nobody understands what is NALSAR expansion. And then I took a call. My wife said, you are committing harakiri. I said, no, I'm trying to pursue. If things go right, it's going to be different. Things go wrong, let me see. Life is not one door shuts, another door will open. And she said, I am in Bangalore. And I said, well, let's see, you might join or I might come to Bangalore. And rest was history. That's why I wanted to tell. Then when we joined, it was Professor Ranbir who was very strongly in support of me. He said, start the program. It takes time to develop. We'll do. So we very ambitiously announced a scheme. Not students have to come to NALSAR. We will go to different places and do the classes. So we announced about 4 centers. Of course, the Chennai, Mumbai, Chennai, Delhi, and then Hyderabad. Later, we wanted to add Bangalore. So when we added this, I gave a framework. How many students will join? What will be my 1 rupee outside 1 rupee income? Professor Ranbir said, forget it. This is not a corporate, place. I am supporting you totally, even if it is a loss. Don't worry. I'm going to pump in money. And please, this will not just IPR you're talking. NALSAR will be known to a lot of stakeholders, he said. So that was fantastic support as a young teacher there. And then I went. You won't believe my narrative why I'm telling. This is way back in 2001. I announced Delhi Center. And then Delhi is the capital and Delhi is the policy making place. And Delhi we announced. And when I finished my what I call as the date for admissions, Delhi had simply 5 people who enrolled. My target was 50. 5, big place like Delhi. Now, whether to shut down or not to shut down, Ranbir said no shutting down. 5 also do. I had only 2 teachers who would be willing to come and do this business. One is a good friend from Bangalore called Mr. Muralidharan, a lawyer who's in NLS. I learned a lot of IP from him in NLS. And one more person I took. And you won't believe 3 people flew down to Delhi to teach 5 people, for a diploma program. And we booked a room in ISIL, which can fit about 90 people. And then in that, the 5 people have to come. And the day 1, out of 5 who confirmed finally, all the 5, suddenly only 4 people are waiting. One person has said he is not coming because only we give little mark for attendance. We were very worried. That night we were staying in, at that time, United Andhra Pradesh, we heard that Andhra Bhavan in Ashoka we are staying. I don't know how many people will come tomorrow. The number of teachers seems to be exceeding the students. And then, as predicted, one more stop, 3. So why I'm narrating to you, if I cut short the scene, after 5 years, we were struggling to find a hall. We were trying to take Indian Law Institute because we had about 130. And suddenly in the first year, when I took this patents law course, all over the country, about 50 plus, suddenly swelled to almost 1,000. I'm talking within 4-5 years. This is not very far. I'm talking 2001 to immediate. So what I wanted to drive home from this personal experience was what I call as we were a little, looking around what is happening, not acting, which we should have done faster. Which way to act is a big deliberation, what chairs and research has to do, how to react to, models, etc. But the awareness part itself was a bit delayed. But as they say, one good part of India I always seen in many, many aspects, we were little late starters, but we catch up fast. And that is a very, very positive thing which I see. And why I say catch up fast, I think many people who came and asked the spelling of intellectual property rights about 20 years back are now excellent speakers whom I take notes from. And so that is how I would say the journey in a way that we moved in. But this journey, most crucial question, researchers, lawyers, policy wonks, everybody to look is, what is the narrative of India? Which I call, when I say India, it is one among the 200 countries. But let me tell you, one among the 7 people in the world are Indians. The another one is the Chinese. If an Indian Chinese, you remove, there are only 5 out of the 7 people who occupy 190 plus countries. So we're really talking about a reality of a huge population, which is has its glorious traditions, multiple languages, multiple faiths, which actually adds to a tremendous amount of strength to this country. And suddenly we find, in a sense, that are we a client state or we a state, we are going to rightfully take our place. In fact, we had a very ambitious rightfully taking place when we got independence, when India moved as head of the NAM and other things. But over the period, maybe we have become dependent, lost many things. And in a sense, I always feel when I go to conferences, many places, etc., that is bit of, are we a client state? We are definitely not a client state. We are proving in some pockets. Mr. Raghavendra, who participates in many of the negotiations, and I had the opportunity to be around for a couple of years. Definitely, they really look, not only hearing us, they really look to us, and many other third world countries look towards India, that as a voice, as a creative voice in IPR. So there are 2 parts of the story. One is intellectual property rights and its locus standi in world trade and commerce. 100% it is there everywhere. As we said, the Soviet model of inventor certificates is long passé, many decades. So we are in some form of trade and commerce, I call formula everywhere. What is the kind of percentage, what government, what is private, that keeps varying from the developed and developing world. But the fact remains that incentivization and to a certain extent taking care of that is something non-negotiable. But what is negotiable is different. That is what we call as, what is the model we are moving towards, right? And what is the model we do? How much we take care of a tremendous responsibility of just 1.23 billion population or 1.25 within a smaller land space, and meeting their aspirations and expectations, not just sovereign expectations, but also looking at other aspirations which look always towards India about many things. That's why I said when in WHO or even in WIPO, people who are exposed to WIPO, many people will know about the kind of credibility and intellectual inputs often brought by India. So that is why I said the underlying point when we are really talking about chairs. And Professor Reddy was mentioning, we did some work. I wouldn't say that, I'm going to pat myself. Some work we did within the means what we can do. We did some international conferences. In fact, I brought in 10 professors way back in 2005 about trips. At the time only we are supposed to implement our legislation. We brought in a major networking on that. And that really helped NALSAR in many ways of various viewpoints. And we also did something with WIPO and Max Planck and many places. So certain level we did. And to an extent, NALSAR came to be known to one hotspot, I would call it, in intellectual property, IPR and other things. But if I'm going to look at, because this is today's occasion is about one of the oldest university and the biggest university maybe in the country, I don't know, Osmania and IPR-Chair, which has got a tradition of teaching and research, is now complemented with a chair from the ministry. And so what should be the kind of roadmap? And that I'm pretty sure that there'll be a series of deliberation by Professor Reddy with all the other well-wishers and supporters, including Professor Raghavendra, who's also a proud alumni of, Osmania. That will happen. But what I think is a time has come where we try to deliberate that what is general and what is special to a particular geographical space, and what is required in a socio-political economic matrix. And that seems to be one of the important part, because even now when people told you're stealing, I thought it's so pedestrian and so naive to talk about stealing, because end of the day, the law is what we create and what we do and taking it to the aspiration. So that is long back, if probably I was not even stunned to answer the professor because I had no grip on the subject. But today I can easily engage in a very big debate if it is required, that what is the third world perspective, what is Indian perspective especially, and what the world needs to know about the direction of IPR. As they say, many things are changing. We are not in the statute of Anne. We are not 300 years, 200 years back foundation. We are into, we call new economy. We are calling about, many things which we are really talking about a blend of the old saying used to be that, think global and act local. And, we are having a different coinage and terms now. And so this is very, very crucial. So my talk today and my message for the chair, because there's no point in me technically talking. There are very good experts who are going to speak after me. And Professor Raghavendra has set the tone in a way about, Hyderabad as a city, Osmania, and then how this IP has to move in. And from my experience, as I said, that we are in a right stage with the type of capacity which was not there. That's why I narrated my experience to tell. You felt very lonely, 2 or 3 or 4 people will again appear somewhere, because it was so lonely in a sense that many were not used. But today we find tremendous amount of energy of young people doing things, writing and then publishing, and then really making a rightful place from the place where we come in. And when I say place where we come in, I'm not talking that our thoughts and our deeds only stop without boundary. It has got a larger humanity, which is part of intellectual property rights and the benefits and things like that. So that is, what you call as very, very crucial, in my opinion. So I only take this opportunity not to talk too technical. Maybe I'm a little outdated also in a sense. With the job of a Vice-Chancellor, you sign more files than reading in the last 2 years. So in that sense, only thing if I have to condense my message today to Professor Reddy Garu for this wonderful program of, is assembled today, which is just, I would call it a kind of starting point for very many things to do. And then, as you said that now earlier, as I said, chair was in NALSAR, and I presume it's continuing there. And you got another chair within the same city, and the city is quite big and a place for more innovations and more dynamism and more life, I would call it. So in such context, I'm pretty sure the roadmap Professor Reddy will draw will be a very, what I call as something learning from the past, what is happening, and also coming out with some fresh ideas how to do the 3 areas what a chair is normally established. One is teaching, one is research, and third is called advocacy. And these 3 are very crucial. Teaching, almost all schools do. Research, some do in some level. And advocacy, in my opinion, generally universities are not doing in the last few decades. And that is a big gap. When the government wants a public policy, the advocacy, in my opinion, should come strongly from universities, because universities is a place, it's a conundrum of various ideas. It always doesn't say this is, it says why not or why this. And that kind of thing should be condensed so that it becomes a very important policy level input for government. Otherwise, what you call as policies many times, doesn't run long and finds its own difficulty, even legislations. So this continuous process of teaching, research, advocacy, these 3 should be the, very cut out thing for a chair. And especially, I need to tell Professor Reddy, well known for us, who on the area of IP and with a sharp critical outlook I've seen in PhD presentations or in interviews and many things. I would say that probably it is a good compliment that the chair, deserves Professor Reddy, and Professor Reddy deserves a chair. And most importantly, Osmania, which is not just an educational institution and a landmark of Hyderabad in many, many aspirations, will continue. With this, I would like to give my best message to Professor Reddy, and also, as agreed upon with Professor Reddy, about some other commitment I made out of my complex, Sunday, commitments. After this, I'll be saying goodbye to Professor Raghavendra, Professor Reddy, and other participants, and wish the remaining sessions to be stimulating. Thank you.